guys, it's Kelly here, and I am back with another video. Today's video is featuring some products from the new Pretty Pink Posh September release. This video is actually part of a video hop, so make sure that if you are hopping along, you check for the links below, so that way you can comment as you hop along. They are generously giving away a $20 gift card at each stop, so make sure to comment before September 24th. So today I am using the Christmas Train, Gingerbread Friends, and the Christmas Bells. And I'm going to do my first little Christmas scene of the year, which I'm super excited about because these are adorable. So I'm stamping out everything that I had envisioned in my scene. I'm stamping in Hero Arts Intense Black ink. This is a ink that's safe for alcohol markers. So if you use whatever your preferred ink is for alcohol markers, I wanted to hang my little bells over like an overpass. So I just found my largest circle die. If you don't have a circle die, you can use a plate, anything that's round, and you can trace around it and then cut it with your scissors. I'm going to use the largest circle die to create kind of like this, this little opening. And then I wanted there to be something like behind it. Like if it was a little overpass, like you would still be able to see through it. So I just did a little bit of blue. I used Salty Ocean, a little bit of blue ink blending in the background, kind of real soft. So it looks like it's, those soft clouds that I like to do because it's easy. And then for the ground, I'm going to use some mowed lawn, just on the bottom. You're not going to see the majority of this because I'm going to have like the train tracks and stuff at the bottom, but you can see through like where the train carts are connecting. So I wanted there to be something back there. And if you're like, I don't like your little overpass or your little bells, you could just do this for your little train. Then for my overpass, I wanted it to have some texture. So I'm adding a little bit of hickory smoke just kind of in the background. I wanted it to read as like white, well, like it's kind of like a dirty white, you know what I'm saying? Like white brick. And so I did put on a little bit of shading, and then Pretty Pink Posh has a brick stencil. So that's going to create kind of this little brick overpass. Here's what we're working with so far. And then for the bottom, I'm just going to do just like a strip of gray to put my tracks on. And then we're going to get right into the coloring. Lots of coloring. So for the actual tracks, I'm going to be honest with you. Because I had not colored these before, like I always go into it with, how I would view it as I was shading it, that the tracks would be, the little feet of the tracks would be darker than the top rail because the top rail would sit up higher. But by the time all is said and done in this card, you actually cannot really see the shading in the track. So if I had to do it all over again, like if I made a card with the tracks in the future, I would just color it one color, because there's no point in doing all of that shading if you know that you're not going to see any of it. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, just do it one color. You could pick a dark gray or a black. I kind of Googled around like Christmas Train to see, and the one that I liked the most had a red, what do we call that? I don't know, train. I know the caboose is the end. What's the front? The engine? Like the engine one? And these are the little connectors for in between the carts. So I did use grays for those as well. But anyway, so for the front, the lead car, I decided to color it black, and then that way I could do the other carts like red and green. So this is basically, I'm coloring everything pretty much the same color. If you want something to look black, you have to put the black into it. And so for the wheels, I did all of them the same for all the carts. So I'm going to add some shading around that kind of inside circle. And then I'll be able to move out. This is true black right here. I'll be able to move out through my grays. When you're coloring an object black, you have to have kind of this separation where you have a little bit of a lighter color, even though like it is solid black. There are different values within that. And if we just color the whole thing solid black, then we're not going to be able to see where the wheels sit apart from the engine, or in this case, the larger wheel sits apart from like the conductor's, seat. So we do want to make sure that while we are using black, when we want something to be black, we're using black as our shadow color. And then we're going to move through some darker grays I went all the way out to a C5. You can also do this if you have like Olo markers, that would be the CG family, the cool gray family. And then, so even though we're coloring the whole thing black, we are still going to have highlights and shadows, so that way we can, create that separation and see each individual part of the train. Now, not all of the individual parts are going to go all the way out to our lightest color. Like, for example, the front part of the train, that piece that sticks out, that I didn't take that all the way out to a C5. Because, well, first of all, there's not a lot of real estate, but second of all, it wouldn't catch as much light as like the wheels would, or the roof of it would. And I did color that, even though like in the end of it, because of the way that I chose to do the card, you're not going to be able to see all of it. I still wanted to make sure that you guys could see all of the coloring, in case you were trying to make your own and you're trying to figure out how you want to add the shading. Plus, even for myself, even though like I color a lot of things, for the inside of the wheels, I did a C5 and a C3, so that they would kind of stick out a little bit more. And then I'm going to spare you the coloring of the rest of the wheels because I did it all the same way. For anything that I want to be white, or silver, I am using my lighter cool grays, C1, C3, C5. So for my little candy cane, you guys, if you watch my videos before, you've heard me say it's always easier when you want something to be striped with white. It's always easier to go in and color your shadows for your white, color the whole object that way, and then you can add in your next color over top of it, and it makes the shading so much easier. So some of it, that little cart with the ornament and the present, is adorable. I didn't end up having enough room for all 3 carts on my card, and I knew that I probably wasn't going to, so I actually didn't end up using that one, but I did want to show you the coloring of the stripes, so that way if, you would have that little trick. For this little gingerbread Santa, we're coloring his little hat, the floofy part of his hat, white. Still, again, we're adding those shadows. Same thing for on their little icing. We want it to read white, but we don't want it to be just bright white throughout. For the little teddy bear and the gingerbread man, I chose a warmer brown family. I could have colored the bear a different kind of brown, but I think that when you're putting a full scene together, you don't want to have so many colors that it looks like super busy and overwhelming. If you use the same colors repeatedly, it helps it to look more put together. So I chose to do the bear the same color, so I would just have that repeat of that color. This is the E30s family for Copics, and it is very warm. It's a great gingerbread color. Here, I forgot to do the little buttons on my gingerbread man, so I'm coming back in and coloring those white. But so for our little gingerbread man, his hat is sitting on his head, so that's going to cast a shadow onto his face. And then from there, I just added the shadows underneath the buttons, and then under the underside of the arms and the inside of the legs, and then started just building out from there. For the other one, I'm going to show you where I put the shadows, but I'm not going to show you the coloring of the whole thing because you're going to see it here. So it's basically, you know, just the same thing. We're working from that darkest color out to the lightest. If you aren't as confident in where you're going to put your shadows with your darkest color, you can always start with your lightest color. I colored that way for years. And then from your lightest to your darkest, darkest back out to your lightest. So here is our little gingerbread man. And then for the one that's holding the present, I did add a little bit of shadow kind of to the left and right side of his head, just to give it a little bit more of a round shape. And then we're going to do underneath his bow tie, back behind the present, 2 little lines around the, like in the inside of his arms. Again, underside of the arms, underneath that present, and then in between, like the inside of the legs. And then from there, I worked out to the lightest color. Like normally I try to leave as much like everything in as I possibly can. And this time I did, you know, this is a pretty true, video length for me, but when it's part of a video hop, like I do try to kind of speed it along. But coloring just takes a long time, and you know, I don't want people to be like, oh, I really wanted to know how to color those gingerbread friends. This video has gingerbread friends, and then they open the video and they're like, she didn't color the gingerbread friends. So I do like to leave as much of it in as possible. So normally I like would have the voiceover, you know, edited the video and done the voiceover and stuff before. But yesterday, for some reason, like after I did my live stream, my allergies were just like, they just came on super strong. And so my nose was running nonstop, all the way through the rest of the day into the wee hours. So I edited the video, and then I was like, well, I'll just get the voiceover in the morning, even though I knew I was going to be, you know, cutting it pretty close with the video hop. So I hope the people before and after me forgive me, because I'm going to be like right before go time uploading my YouTube link to the video hop, because I figured, I was like, nobody wants to listen to me sniffle. I don't want to listen to me sniffle. I get annoyed with it myself. So I try to not to do voiceovers if I can. Sometimes like there's just a deadline and I don't have a choice. So now we're using the red. We've colored the hat, the bow tie, the ribbon for the present, and then we're going to go in and get those little stripes for the candy cane. I also got the little stripes you can see for on the cart. And then we did the little lights. So for the little lights, you do want to put your darkest color where they're connecting to their base, and then 1 dot of the little mid-tone, and then finish it off with the lightest color. There's not a lot of real estate there, but even that, just that little bit of shading does make a difference. I'm working on the golds. I also I'm like coloring the ornaments on the tree multiple different colors, and those I did the same way that I did the buttons. So the darkest color on the bottom, dot of mid-tone, dot of lightest color. For the bow, or yeah, the bows and the ribbons, I just kind of add the shading, like the darkest part to the top and the bottom, and then have the lightest part be in the middle. For these bells, I'm going to color them gold. Obviously, they could be silver or they could be black. They could be a lot of different things. In my head, I was like, oh, I should have dusted these with like snow or like glitter, to look like snow. But that's an opportunity for me to make another card, right? But so I did decide to color them gold, again, for that repetition and repeating that color scheme. So one bell is tucked behind the other. That one will be darker than the one that is in the front. And you can see that I did add a little bit of shading kind of down the side to the one in the front. But I left it in a little bit. That's going to create a little bit of reflective light, and help it to give it a little bit more shape. I do like a golden like a yellow gold that's like on the golden side. But in order for that to work, I do need to take that yellow, that or that Y08, and go over the browns and the oranges that I'm shading with to help it really read like a gold. So if you are finding that you are having trouble with your colors blending, make sure you're going over each individual color. Like if you're, for example, with the holly, so we're starting with a YG67. When I bring in the YG17, I'm going to go over top of the 67, and then I'm going to extend that color out. Alcohol markers blend in the fibers of your paper, so the more ink that you have down, the easier it is for them to blend. Now, we don't want to oversaturate and have it like running outside of our lines, but we do want to have enough ink down that is going to be able to blend. This is why you hear people say like you should have like juicy markers, because a dry marker does not blend well. There's just not enough moisture for it to blend well. So here, I decided to do their little present green in the little gingerbread man's hand. I needed another color in order to like finish off my lights and my ornaments. So I went with a blue because remember we did that blue ink blending in the background. So again, this color already exists in the card. I'm just bringing that in, and then I chose to do a little bit of a darker green. I'm going to do that for the tree. And then basically, you see the down at the bottom, the bells, they have those little like pine sprigs. I'm going to use this green to color my pine sprigs. So in order to make sure that the color is seen in the card in more than one capacity, that is how I decided to color them. So I used this for the tree, went in with my darkest color underneath the little ornaments and right where the tree is like tucking into the cart. And then with my mid-tone, I went over that, circled all of the ornaments, and then for my lightest color, I will go in and kind of blend them all out. For the cart at the top here with the lights, I decided to color it green as well. In hindsight, I might have changed this to red if I knew how the card was going to go. But I'm not mad at the green. I like green. So now I have all of my coordinating dies. I am going to tape them down with my little pixie tape and run them through. And then here, the only other thing that I've added is that little gray strip. That's going to be what my train sits on. I wanted to, so my little gingerbread man with my Santa hat, I wanted him to be like my little driver of my train. And I could not find my X-Acto knife. So I'm going to be honest with you, be very careful if you choose to do it this way, because you kind of have to poke your scissors into the middle. So make sure you don't poke yourself, word of warning. And then I'm going to use those little scissors to create an X. So I cut from the middle to one corner and then the middle to another corner to all four corners. And then this makes it very easy to get my scissors in there and cut around the edges. Because we don't like raw edges, I'm going back in with that black marker and just getting those edges. And then for the sentiment, this one actually comes from the Christmas train. And it says, "Holiday fun is on the way," which I thought was really cute because obviously I wanted it to look like these little, like the little gingerbread men are like helping pack up Santa's train, for him to go deliver all of the toys. That's why they're doing it in the daytime. I did think about possibly, doing it as a night scene. And I think as a night scene, it probably would have been a bit more dramatic. But sometimes a day scene is okay. Every card doesn't have to be dramatic, Kelly. So here I am gluing down my little circle overpass here. Another thing you could do with this is you could do like a little overpass, but move it down and put the train on top of the overpass, with like a little, like a little grass scene or something below. That would be super cute. And then I'm going to put my gray down here. This is what I'm going to rest my tracks on. So, and then if you guys are not familiar with my cards, I don't love the white outline of the die cut. So as I glue these down, I am going to blend in the white edge. And in this case, like underneath the train tracks, I'll add a little bit of a shadow with that same gray marker. But you'll see, we glue, we blend, we glue, we blend. So anyway, my grandmother, my graham cracker, so in the house that my mom grew up in, they moved a lot. I think that was probably more common back in the day. But this was the house that my mom grew up in, and was the house that, you know, my grandmother and grandfather had when I was growing up. It was a dead end street, and at the dead end was train tracks. Back to the card. So here is, I want my little conductor to be like peeping his head out. So I have fit him in there, and then I'm going to glue him in, and then I'm going to trim off any excess of his body that would be sticking out. So it looks like he's, you know, with his little jolly hat, he's sticking out his head from the little conductor seat, and, you know, maybe talking to his little coworker who's loading up the presents. I love a little story with my little scene cards. I can't stop myself. So anyway, Graham, the street that they grew up on, and there was a train. It was a dead end, and there was a train at the end of it. And she, like, you could just hear it all the time. Like, you would be laying in bed, and there would be a train that went by at, you know, 2:00 in the afternoon, 2:00 in the morning. It did not matter. But here, like, really, the human body is amazing because you can get used to anything. Honestly, eventually, like, you just don't hear it anymore. Like, it'll just be coming through, and it'll just be like a thing that is going on that your brain is not even recognizing. I did pop up my bells, and then my sentiment, and my little gingerbread helper. So yeah, but she would always be honest. Like, don't go down there. Don't be walking in the railroad tracks. Don't go down there. Don't be walking in the railroad tracks. And of course, as children of, you know, the 80s and 90s, what did we do? Of course, we went into the railroad tracks. Why would we not? Like, we would put pennies on the tracks and let them get smushed, and then take them home and with our smushed penny collection. But the fun thing about the train at the end of Graham Street was it actually separated the back of her street from a drive-in movie theater. So on the other side of the train tracks was a drive-in movie theater. And so they had like the huge, you know, billboard screens and stuff. And I had two friends at my Graham's house, because I was like there all summer, you know, when my mom went back to work, then we would go to Graham's all summer. But I had two friends, and both of them lived at the end of the street. But my friend Erin, who lived at the end of the street, her dad had built her a tree house. And this is back in the day that you would, like, in order to watch the movies, you would just tune your, you know, your radio to whatever the channel was, and that's how you could hear the movie. You didn't necessarily have to have the speaker box in your car. You could just turn to the channel on the radio. And so we would sit in Erin's treehouse with our little radio on and be like watching the movies from afar. So good memories. I think as maybe her brother got older, they tried to like sneak into the drive-through, like go up through the train tracks and sneak in, but we were too young for that. I was never going to do that. But anyway, fun little stories there. So here, now I've glued in the majority of my train. I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to put my little helper. And I decided that he looked best between the last two carts. So I went ahead and put him down. He is up on foam, and even though they're up on foam, we're still going to take the time to blend them into the scene, so that way they don't, you know, he's not sticking out with his white outline like a sore thumb. And I will extend his ground, like his little ground shadow. I will extend that out since he is standing on the ground. So this is what we're looking like so far, but you guys know that I'm going to add the shimmer and the gel pen because I cannot stop myself. So I did add some clear shimmer to basically everything. I mean, pretty much anything that I to the train, to the presents, to the bells. And then for the white gel pen, I did, my typical white kind of highlights. But there's two that I just want to kind of mention. One of them is the hat and the ball. I made them fluffy by doing a series of dots, but when you do the dots, you want to make sure that you're going over that black stamped line, and it helps it to give this little fuzzy appearance. And then I also used it to create like a string of lights onto the tree. So that is it. That is the whole card. If it's before September 24th, please don't forget to comment for your chance to win that $20 gift card from Pretty Pink Posh. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Please continue hopping along in the links below, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.